Devlog number 12. I've had a decently productive week, not necessarily doing the stuff I expected to be doing, but that seems to happen pretty often. I was just looking at this screen. I wonder if I should change this copyright date. Or maybe just remove this text entirely. The purpose of this is in case I actually send an executable build of this to someone, and, it leaks out in the wild somehow, so you'll know this shouldn't have leaked out. I don't know. Doesn't really deter that much, but anyway. Did a few things, mostly like polishing up a lot of stuff that was already there, but I have some kind of important new features to talk about. So there were these little things that were bothering me before with, let's see, I need to go to here probably to see this. If you're looking closely, you'll see there's already some new stuff there. Oh yeah, and there too. But what I wanted to see was, so these things, they overlap the correct way now, out of the black frame. Anyway, little stuff like that was bothering me, stuff like the sticky tooltip here, that's fixed. I don't always get to every one of those minor annoyances that I run into every single time I record one of these, but I got to most of them from this last week. Anyway, there was one other thing. Oh yeah, so the formula description here with this little arrow that expands. It looks real great there with one line, but when it's multi-line. So I made it update its layout just as if it's like popping in for the first time. So basically when one of these pop-ups comes on screen, you can see this one is has its tail here, is a little off center. It wants to center the tail on whatever side of the thing it's going on. But I have an auto layout thing with some constraints that just says like, okay, so if I'm starting from this rectangle, so this pop-up here is spawned from the rectangle of this button. It says, when I do that, I give it a preference direction. So this one happens to say, well, I want to pop up on top. And there's kind of room on top, but I have to kind of scooch myself over a little bit because I can't center my tail, have to be over there. If this list were enormous, just slightly larger than the amount of space that would fit in here, this would actually adjust and go to the left to fit it. If it just can't fit in the vertical space at all, I don't actually off the top of my head know what it does. That's a situation I'm going to have to deal with. Yeah, so I have a lot of like UI limits stuff to think about. Anyway, sorry, I went off on several tangents there. So, right, that whole thing where like this thing used to decide its layout for the single line sized one of these. Now it just reruns the auto layout for multi-line. So if I had a huge formula and this were popping up top, then I guess it might go to the side. I don't know. I don't have like a great way to show that. Anyway, let's talk about some other stuff. So not being in the middle of like a heavy rewrite of stuff like this target selector feels really good because I can pick off a whole bunch of smaller items on my to-do list. So there's a lot of sort of little things here that got done kind of all over the place. It feels nice. I kind of went on a long walk the other day and thought a little bit about the future of this project and how it lines up with my life goals. And, I like to go on long walks and think about things like this. That's when that kind of just like, I don't know, freeform thinking happens. And I made a few changes in my process here. So I've talked before about my time management where I do a minimum of half an hour of work. So I split my work on this game mostly into half-hour chunks, and I do a minimum of one of those work units every single day, no matter what else is going on. I've come to the realization that more days than not, that has ended up being just the minimum. So like 3.5 hours of work per week on this game is just not enough. 7 hours would be a lot better, a big step in the right direction. I usually get my daily work unit done at the beginning of the day, so I thought I would try a new thing where I do the beginning of the day one just the same, but also I tack one on at the very end of the day, so I have bookends on both ends. So I begin my day by half an hour of work on this, I end my day with half an hour of work on it, then go straight to bed after that. It's only been a few days of doing that, but it's actually working like super well. Just like having that extra structure helps me in other ways than just working on the game. Like it actually helps me get to bed at a more regular time because I have a a structured activity that I want to do every day before then. So anyway, stuff like that's working for me. So hopefully like progress can be a bit quicker with like at least twice as much work on this. And it doesn't feel like that much more just because of the way it's split up. Anyway, so the stuff that I've done, I am doing some work in the background now on building the main scenario for this. It's it's pretty far out. You know, I have to start now if I ever want to finish. I'm doing like world building, story writing stuff. There's going to be a story and a world. Oh man, spoilers. But like I'm not to the point where I have any mechanical stuff built. So this showcase, building this has actually been real good for trying out a bunch of like mechanics ideas with, you know, this regenerating energy system and stuff. So I've discovered a flaw in it where I need my energy to actually regenerate by 2 per turn if everything costs at least 1. Or I need some free actions because you'll just never regenerate all the way. That's what I'm looking for. Solutions. Here we go. You'll just never regenerate all the way otherwise. Ooh, that does not look too good with these two next to each other. Why does this look like this? I know. Okay, yeah. So there's a new look here, and man, I think this grid needs bigger margins around its cells because the icons go right to the very edge. Okay, so that's a change for me. I also think this just needs to be much larger in general for bigger champion portraits because, like, champions need. Oh, right, sorry, there are champion icons in battle grids now, action grids, and over here. So yeah, the largest thing that I worked on over the last week was that, it might not look like the largest, but it actually touched a lot of parts of this code. The what used to be just these icons, the target type icon showing in the second row of the action grid, which I guess really this is the same thing over here. This is an action grid, just oriented and presented differently. Now shows the icon of the champion you're targeting. So Archer 1 is performing a shoot action on... Ooh, tooltip's got to change. That's not done. That's still a tooltip for... Oh, right, it doesn't show up here. Tooltip for target type. Okay, so I'm not quite done with that, but basically done. Just got to fix tooltips. Anyway, actually, this is a real good example. Also showing how problematic it is that I'm sharing so many icons here. So I'm using the Fortify action, which has a shield icon, applies a status that has a shield icon, on a champion that has a shield icon. Yourself. Oh, right. Kind of getting ahead of myself here. And the volley action affects multiple targets. So instead of a champion icon here, I see what used to be the target all enemies icon. It actually shows up nowhere else in the game anymore. So I found it a new home there. Anyway, so multiple black circles means this thing's enemy, more than one enemy is targeted. And I have now a list of targets you can pop up here to... What? No, that's right. Yes, this is correct. I was a little confused. Right, there are 3 targets. I think I saw these 2 dots and thought I should see 2 items in here. Maybe I should put a number next to this or something. There's a lot of numbers in here already. Anyway, right, so this is showing that when I take the volley action, whose details I can see here, it does those things. It will target these 3 champions on the enemy team. Protector 2, Protector 2, Archer 2, Archer 2, Archer 3, Archer 3. Each one's health will decrease by 3 for Protector because it has some defense, 4 for each Archer. There's no additional detail in this view. I don't know what I would show if I pointed at any of these. I think it's probably okay for this to be non-interactive. I don't think you need to drill down any further. I guess the one thing I do want to show, because if you want to see like the details of what this action does, then you come over here. It decreases health by 4. If there were more to this formula, you could expand this and see that. The one thing I might want to show at some point here is like how exactly it arrived at this number. So like you would see, I don't have a way to like auto-generate this information at the moment. I'd have to invent one, but you'd see like the input of the the inputs to this formula, the way it evaluated them. So this formula has no inputs. This is just a constant number, but if it had inputs like actor's strength, they would go in here. then come out with a value of 4, then that input to the elemental reduction formula for physical, and how those numbers flowed through this entire thing. That might be more information than necessary. I don't know if that's even really that helpful to a player, but like, for diagnosing problems, like, why does this number look the way it does? I've confused my own self multiple times here, in this very video, in fact, seeing things I didn't immediately understand. Oh, right, if there's no target at the moment, it's just a question mark, because there's nobody on the enemy team. That'll show here too, right? Yes. And this updates dynamically, so if I put protector in here, right, those are now all shield icons, because that's the first... Oh, something that is missing here. Oh, this should pop up a different thing, actually. While I should be able to see this, this should really show the target selector for that, because there's no way to inspect that right now. Okay. That throws a wrench in the works. Where will I put that? Because I want to be able to see this here. Anyway, right, so what I was trying to show there was that that'll be Archer now, if the Archer is in the lead. Well, I guess it's not so much in the lead, it's in this position. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so swap those around and the target goes to a different thingy, you know. Anyway, and if I were to go to here, this menu also got icons. It's nothing all that exciting, just like, you know, gives you a consistent visual language for what you're looking at. Not entirely happy with all of these, but they do the job, I guess. They look okay altogether, but if you look at any one individually, like, what the heck is this? This is like, you know, slot for helmet, slot for chest piece, something for one hand, something for another hand, slot for... I don't have individual foot slots. I don't even have feet as a equipment slot in this scenario. I could. You could wear a different boot on one foot and, you know, nothing on the other foot if you wanted. If you wanted to set up, like, that equipment slot. Kind of almost want to have something that looks a little like this, like, displayed all the way out here in all this now empty room since I removed the buttons, just so you could see at a glance, like, what equipment something is wearing. I'm not sure how I would do it, though. Because, like, I don't think I could do a layout like this, because it's going to be, because equipment slots are completely arbitrary. Like, where does accessory go in this thing? Anyway, so don't worry about that. Right, what I was here to show was, if I bring a mage to this, and I were to, here, warrior, you can come too. I'll give you, right, yeah, that icon is there. Somehow I feel a little bit better about having there be more, you know, button presses or clicks between, like, here and here, having those icons in there. I don't know, it just gives it a better feel to it. Still think I need to do something to make this flow a bit better. Anyway, right, so you're going to equip Venom spell. And if I tell you to cast that, so right, Venom on Imp, because it defaults to enemy single. So you could do enemy all spaces, or all in row, same, what? Okay, no, that's right. This has the target reticle there, and also the selected space, which might matter in some cases. So enemy all rows now just shows, you know, there are multiple enemies. I'm not going to show them individually. If I say friend all rows, multiple friends. If I say both sides, then you get that icon. So your list of Venom targets is like this. Mage will receive Venom status for that many turns. There are things I could change with this description, like go into more detail about what the Venom status does, but I don't want to. Right, so yeah, when the mage goes, cast Venom on everybody, so that all matches up. Anyway, yeah, so that's most of what I've done. Right, so in the battle screen, you can also point at... Oh, so I can't point directly at this, but I can still go to actions. Yeah, that tooltip needs to change, so I guess this would just say multiple champions. Or maybe enemies and friends. Maybe. Multiple enemies, multiple friends. I'll think about it. Yeah, and if you want to see more detail about the Venom status, then just like applies for 8 turns, you can come to the action and see all the formulas broken out. I think that's fine. This does not have a lot of space. I need to make this window bigger. Really, I need to make all of these flexible layout based on what's in them. Like if you have text that's this long, then the window should just be big enough to contain that. It's actually not too major a change. I can make these all adapt to their content. It's just something I haven't done yet. One of those things that's on the to-do list for later. Later hasn't come yet, so this would be narrower, so that like this arrow would be just to the right of the status effects, because that's the widest one. Anyway, yeah, so this is again a little bit of a last-minute update. I don't want to do too much today. I'd kind of like to do some scenario building, but it's not a good time for it. So I'm hoping this double productivity thing that I'm doing should get me to a better place quicker so that I can do things like that. I still have the worry of, I think I'm going to very quickly run into limits on space here. Like if I'd add 2 more champions here, and I know you might fit another row in there, but it's probably going to overlap with the available there and not look too great. Then once you get to the fight screen, this is already overlapping stuff. This needs to be all the way up here because the combat log already overlaps with the buttons. So yeah, just like things are bursting at the seams. They don't fit in place. I need to address it. I mean, I could for now get away with just letting stuff overlap. This goes underneath the battle grid. I can still get to everything, just it's not super readable. I guess that shouldn't stop me from adding like a bunch more champions to this scenario right now. I don't know. But yeah, that's a thing I'll need to address. But yeah, I have like all this space over here. Just move this over slightly and that would fit. But what about for a larger battle grid? Then it wouldn't fit if it's like a huge battlefield. And the combat log text is going to overlap. Stuff I got to deal with somehow, and I don't have a good solution for it yet. Anyway, yeah, so next week I could do scenario work today. There's nothing blocking me other than just like time on the clock, Oh, by the way, I am actually in the progress. I have some uncommitted changes that aren't quite done yet for removing the party size limit and just making it entirely to do with who can fit on the battlefield. So if I had 9 champions here and a battlefield this size, nothing would stop me from bringing 9. I'm pretty sure that's the way I want it. Because like just an arbitrary limit on number when there's enough space, doesn't make any sense. And I don't think it really has any gameplay relevance either, so I can totally just ditch it in favor of, if there's space, you can bring whoever you have in your list. Because so imagine late in a scenario, you could have like a list of, 14 champions down here. You choose whoever's available for whoever has the stats and properties and things for the scenario. You could have 14 champions, have a battlefield this size. Maybe you wouldn't bring 9 of them. Why would you bring less if you have the space, though? Well, maybe people need to move around on the battlefield. Yeah. Okay. So a not insignificant thing I need to do is to add move commands. Because whoa. High hit detection, you're the wrong way around. Are you actually, or is that just drawing wrong? It works with a gamepad. Hang on, what is going on here? Okay, so it's that my mouse click here is registering as this. Okay, so my mouse click detection is upside down, but everything else is right side up. Okay, found a bug. Happens every time. Right, anyway, yeah, so a reason to leave space in the battlefield is because there's totally going to be, let's do it this way, commands you can use during battle to do this. Well, if you did that, you would lose this row of ground. So, you'd be more likely to do something like this, step over there, do something, snipe at an archer there, step back so that they can't reach you. There'd be less reason to move laterally in your row, but there would be some. I guess like the situation for who's being targeted here. this targets the protector. Doing that instead targets the archer. Right, anyway. I'm just kind of talking to myself now. All right, yeah, so next week, have this a little better polished up. These icons are kind of close to each other too. Like this archer, this range icon really comes right to the edge of its bounds and is highlighting all the places where my icons are really close together. This is also not an archer icon. I should change this to something else. Anyway, lots to do, but I'm doing more of it at a faster rate now. See you next week for hopefully some scenario design and stuff.